The universe remembers fire. Long before humanity scribbled equations for rocket fuel or carved gunpowder into celebration, the Zarathians etched their history in cauterized stone. Their homeworld's crust still bore the scars of the Great Ignition, a solar flare that turned oceans to steam and forests to ash, birthing a religion forged in terror of open flame. For millennia, they rebuilt their empire in the cold, dark warships with frost-coated hulls, cities lit by bioluminescent lichen, laws condemning combustion to death by vacuum. Fire became myth, then heresy, then a folktale to frighten hatchlings. But humans, reckless, radiant humans, painted their skies with gunpowder sonnets. They did not know that their jubilant explosions echoed the Zarathians' oldest trauma, that each fireworks bloom screamed invasion in a dialect of light. They could not fathom that a species might mistake birthday candles for siege engines, sparklers for declarations of holy war. The Zarathians watched. They decoded humanity's pyrotechnic bravado through cracked viewports, their scales itching with ancestral panic. A New Year's Eve finale over Earth's Tokyo became a mobilization order. A child's wish whispered to a Roman candle morphed into a battle hymn. Somewhere, in the indifferent sprawl of the Orion Arm, a human clown mixed glitter with military-grade pyrotechnics, unaware that her art was a semaphore. Somewhere, a Zarathian warlord sharpened his claws, prepared to answer fire with extinction. The stage was lit. All it needed was a spark. Chapter 1. The air on Colony Theta 9 smelled like rust and sugar. Sergeant Mia Ning inhaled deeply, the scent clinging to her sinuses, as she dipped a foam brush into a pot of neon blue face paint. Her reflection in the vanity mirror stared back, a woman in her late 30s, with eyes that had forgotten how to soften, her black hair streaked with synthetic clown red dye. The face paint was her armor now, smeared in arcs of glitter and whimsy, a far cry from the charcoal tactical smudges of her past. She dabbed a star beneath her left eye, her hand pausing midair. Stars, that's what the families had called the sparks raining down that night. It's like the sky's giving us fireworks. One of the children had laughed, right before the warehouse explosion turned applause into screams. The memory hissed in her skull like a lit fuse. Mia clenched her jaw, forcing her fingers steady. Tonight wasn't about the past. Tonight was for Lilo. Outside her prefab storage shed, the colony's dome shimmered under the artificial twilight cycle, its hexagonal panels tinted a dusky orange. The air recyclers hummed, pumping in the tang of hydroponic fertilizer and the faint musk of the algae vats. Mia shrugged into her patchwork clown coat, a relic stitched from salvaged parade banners, its once vivid pinks and yellows faded to the hue of old scars. She tucked a modified party popper into her sleeve, the device's casing rewired to spit confetti in fractal patterns. A child's toy, a soldier's tinkering. The party was already roaring when she arrived at the rec center. Streamers dangled from the ceiling fans, fluttering in the recycled breeze, and a cluster of off-duty miners swayed to the tinny thump of a recycled synth-pop track. At the center of it all sat Lilo, the mayor's 3-year-old, perched on a chair twice her size. The girl's shoes, glittery red Mary Janes, kicked absently against the air, her gaze fixed on the empty space above the crowd where Mia's fireworks would soon bloom. Firecack, Lilo shouted, spotting her. The mispronunciation had stuck, a relic of toddler linguistics. Mia's chest tightened. The girl's grin was a carbon copy of her niece's. She knelt, producing a balloon twisted into a lopsided pterodactyl. For the birthday warlord, she said, her voice sanded smooth by years of swallowing smoke. Lilo grabbed it, babbling a stream of nonsense that Mia translated through sheer will. More dinosaurs. Faster. Louder. Always louder. The mayor clapped her shoulder, his breath sweet with homebrewed lichen whiskey. Keep it tame, yeah. Last year's volcano cakes took out a light panel. Mia's smile felt stapled on. Tame's my middle name, sir. Lie. Her fingers itched as she retreated to the fireworks rig, a jury-rigged launch pad cobbled from mining charge cast-offs. The controls were a mess of salvaged switches, each labeled in her jagged script. Dragon's breath. Stardust cascade. Supernova do not use. She ran a thumb over the last label, the letters grooved like scars. That one was hers alone, a relic from the days when her pyrotechnics answered to generals, not toddlers. The dome's lights dimmed on schedule. A hush slithered through the crowd, broken only by Lilo's giggle. Mia flicked the first switch. The night erupted. Not literally. Not this time. Golden comets spiraled upward, bursting into showers of emerald sparks that dripped like weeping willows. The crowd oohed. Mia didn't blink. Her mind mapped trajectories, burn rates, the half-life of each chemical bloom. Fire was a language she'd never unlearn, its grammar etched in split-second decisions, and the weight of a dead child's shoe in her pocket. Then came the finale, her dragon. It uncoiled lazily, a serpent of crimson and gold, its jaws gaping toward the dome's apex. The crowd gasped. Mia didn't. She designed it to mirror the constellation Draco, a private joke for an audience of one. Lilo's tiny hand reached up, trying to clutch the flickering teeth. A vibration shuddered through the floor. Mia froze. Not the subsonic rumble of faulty recyclers. This was sharper, a metallic groan that set her molars humming. The dragon firework pulsed, its tail twitching as the dome's panels flickered. Then the lights died. Darkness. Silence. Lilo's whimper. Mia's hand found the party popper in her sleeve. Old instincts flared. Ambush. Blackout. Hostiles in the wire. But the crowd's confusion was civilian grade. Someone laughed nervously. A miner sparked a plasma lighter. Click. A tiny blue flame bloomed in the dark. The scream that followed wasn't human. It was a guttural bone-splintering shriek that tore through the dome like a chainsaw. The lighter clattered to the floor. Mia spun, squinting into the sudden floodlights as emergency protocols kicked in. They stood at the main airlock, 7 feet tall, armored in iridescent scales that drank the light, their slit pupilled eyes, reflecting the dying sparks of Mia's dragon. Zarathians. The briefing flits she'd skimmed during supply runs, flashed in her mind. Cold-blooded, hyper-aggressive, conquered 3 systems before the Great Ignition. The lead alien roared, its serrated tongue lashing at the air. Mia's brain auto-translated the subharmonics. You dare invoke the flame rune. The crowd scattered. Lilo wailed. Mia moved. She didn't think. Thinking was for people who hadn't spent a decade mapping exits. She lunged for Lilo, snatching the girl mid-sprint, and ducked behind the overturned snack table. Jello cubes slithered down her collar. Lilo buried her face in Mia's coat, tiny fists clutching the clown ruffles. The Zarathian's claw speared the table, missing Mia's thigh by inches. She rolled, shielding Lilo's head, and came up swinging the party popper. Click hiss. Capsaicin-laced glitter exploded in the alien's face. It reeled, mucus-like tears bubbling from its eyes, and Mia didn't wait. She sprinted for the fireworks rig, Lilo a shivering weight against her chest. The rig's control panel blinked erratically. Mia stabbed the override, her free hand yanking wires from the supernova cartridge. Too big for indoor use. Perfect. Close your eyes, bug, she whispered. Lilo obeyed. The blast was deafening. White fire engulfed the dome's ceiling, cascading into a shockwave of heatless light. Zarathians screeched, their sensitive eyes seared, and Mia ran, past the algae vats, through the service tunnels, her clown shoes slapping against the grill floors. Lilo's breath hitched in tiny sobs. They burst into the colony's greenhouse, the only sector with independent life support. Mia barricaded the door with fertilizer sacks, her lungs burning. Lilo squirmed, reaching for Mia's smeared face paint. Firecack scary, she whispered. Mia's laugh came out ragged. Yeah, I know. Outside the colony's alarms wailed. Somewhere in the chaos, the mayor was probably dead. The Zarathians' roars shook the walls, their meaning clearer now. Burn the defilers. Purge the flame worshippers. Mia stared at her fireworks remote, still clutched in her grease-streaked hand. The dragon skeleton flickered on the tiny screen. Its arc, its timing, the way its jaws had aligned with the dome's northern vent. Oh God, she'd drawn their symbol, their sacred call to war. Lilo patted her cheek, leaving a sticky palm print of frosting. Mia pressed her forehead to the girl's, her voice cracking. "I'm gonna fix this." Lie. But for the first time in years, she wanted it to be true. Chapter 2. The greenhouse air clung thick with the musk of overripe tomatoes, and the electric tang of fear. Mia crouched between rows of hydroponic lettuce. Lilo's weighed a furnace against her chest. The girl had stopped crying, her breath hitching in tiny syncopated rhythms against Mia's collarbone. Outside, the colony's alarms warbled like a chorus of broken flutes, their pitch warped by the Zarathians' jamming frequencies. Mia's fingers traced the edge of her last party popper, a plastic dragon spewing confetti, now gutted and packed with chili powder from the mess hall. A child's toy, a soldier's last stand. This isn't a war, she told herself. It's a misunderstanding written in fire. But fire had a way of rewriting everything it touched. Lilo stirred, her sticky fingers curling around Mia's clown ruffles. Firecack, go home. Mia's throat tightened. Home. The word conjured the acid green skies of her niece's last birthday. The way the girl had twirled in her princess dress, oblivious to the faulty wiring snaking through the rafters above. Mia had designed the pyrotechnics that night too, a cascade of silver phoenixes meant to rise from a cake shaped like a castle. The first spark had been beautiful, the second had been judgment. She pressed her nose to Lilo's hair, inhaling the scent of frosting and baby shampoo. Not again, never again. A skittering noise echoed through the greenhouse vents, scales on metal. Mia stilled. The Zarathians' thermal vision couldn't penetrate the humidity, but their hearing was acute, tuned to the heartbeat thrum of prey. She counted the seconds between drips from a leaky irrigation pipe, matching her breath to their rhythm. 1, 2, 3. A shadow blotched the frosted glass door. Claws tapped a staccato rhythm, testing locks. Mia's hand drifted to the modified party popper. 3 meters to the service hatch. 2, if she lunged. The door exploded inward. Shards of glass hung suspended for a heartbeat, catching the sickly glow of growth lamps, before crashing down in a crystalline rain. The Zarathian filled the doorway, its obsidian scales glistening with hydraulic fluid from the breached airlock. Its nostrils flared, sampling the air, algae, sweat, the burnt sugar stench of human fear. Lilo whimpered. Mia moved. The capsaicin blast hit the Zarathian's eyes just as its jaws unhinged. It recoiled, mucus streaming from its nasal slits, and Mia was already sprinting. Lilo's legs clamped around her waist. She slid into the service tunnel, knees grinding against the grated floor, and slammed the hatch shut with her heel. The Zarathian's roar shook the walls, its claws screeching against reinforced steel. Firecack fast, Lilo whispered, awe cutting through her terror. Mia's laugh came out ragged. Had practice. The tunnels were a vascular system of rust and shadows, built for maintenance drones, not fugitives. Mia crawled, Lilo's breath hot against her neck, past bundles of fiber optic cables, and leaking coolant pipes. Her mind mapped turns, left at the junction where Nurse Patel kept her contraband whiskey stash, right where the rookies had graffitied a cartoon Zarathian with clown shoes. The colony's underbelly was a museum of half-remembered routines, now twisted into a labyrinth of survival. They emerged in Rec Sector D, the party's carnage preserved under emergency lighting. Streamers dangled like eviscerated intestines. A half-melted cake oozed chocolate onto the floor, its frosting message "Happy Birthday Lilo," now a morbid epitaph. Mia's fireworks rig stood intact, its control panel blinking lazily, oblivious to the apocalypse it had summoned. A figure lunged from the shadows. Mia spun, party popper raised, and froze. The medic, Reyes, stared down the barrel of her confetti cannon, his hands raised in surrender. A defibrillator pack hung from his belt like a bandolier, its electrodes modified into crude tasers. "Knee?" His voice cracked. "They said you were spacing the kid. They lied." Mia lowered the popper, her pulse thundering in her ears. Reyes looked older, his buzz cut peppered with gray that hadn't been there during the last medevac drill. His left sleeve was torn, revealing a fresh claw burn. "Who's left?" she asked. "Me, Jax from engineering," and he hesitated. "Your lizard." Krill. The Zarathian defector had been a punchline during briefings, a poet warrior who'd fled their empire. After writing a haiku critical of the warlords, Mia had found him 6 months back, half dead in a grain silo, his scent glands ruptured to avoid detection. Their friendship was a silent pact. She didn't ask about his scars. He didn't flinch at her fireworks. "He's in the vents," Reyes said, translating their comms. "Their comms are scent-based." "Yeah. So he's licking the vents, don't ask." The rec center's kitchen had become a war room. Blueprints were pinned to the freezer doors with steak knives, and Jax, a baby-faced engineer, who still acne-creamed his chin, was elbow-deep in a deep fryer, rewiring it into a motion sensor. He glanced up, his goggles smeared with oil. "Sarge, you're alive, and he blinked at Lilo. "You're babysitting, strategizing," Mia said. A hiss echoed from the ceiling vent. Krill dropped down, his movements fluid yet alien, like a spider who'd learned to walk upright. His scales were duller than the others, a mosaic of greens and grays, and his throat pulsed as he released a scent, burnt amber and lemon peel. "Danger close," Mia translated. "5 hunters, hungry." She nodded. "Weapons?" Jax gestured to a pile of party supplies. Confetti cannons loaded with glass shards, fondant as sealant, and he held up a modified piñata, its papier-mâché shell stuffed with ammonia capsules. "Piñata of doom," Reyes snorted. "We're gonna die, clowns." Mia ignored him. Her fingers danced over the fireworks rig, bypassing safeties, rerouting circuits. The supernova cartridge hummed. "A sleeping dragon." Reyes gripped her arm. "That thing's rated for outdoor use only." She met his gaze. "You got a better exit strategy?" "No." The word hung unspoken. Mia saw the moment he relented. The twitch in his jaw, the way his fingers brushed the photo of his daughter tucked in his breast pocket. They worked in silence. Jax jury-rigged the colony's sprinklers to spray a mist of vinegar and liquid latex. Reyes calibrated defibrillator tasers, his hands steady despite the tremors in his breath. Krill hunched over a vent, tasting the air for Zarathian pheromones. Lilo sat cross-legged on the snack table, dismantling a glow stick. "Pretty," she declared, smearing neon blue across her cheeks. Mia paused. The girl's face glowed faintly, a miniature bioluminescent ghost. The Zarathians' gods, Krill had once told her, his scent words bitter with nostalgia. They were light bringers, extinguished when our sun turned wrathful. A plan crystallized, fragile, absurd, the kind that got cadets killed. Mia reached into her clown coat, extracting a sparkler from the inner lining. "Lilo, remember how we practice?" The girl nodded, solemn. Twinkle safe, the mantra from their backyard sessions, where Mia had taught her to hold sparklers at arm's length, to giggle at the fizz instead of fear it. Krill stiffened. His throat emitted a new scent, rotten orchids, iron filings. "They're here." The first Zarathian crashed through the east wall, its roar shredding the air. Mia's squad moved as one. Jax launched the piñata, its ammonia payload bursting in a noxious cloud. Reyes tasered a claw mid-swipe, the voltage arcing through scale flesh. Mia rolled, firing confetti shrapnel into gummy eyes, her mind split between combat calculus and memory. Her niece's laughter, the warehouse inferno, the way smoke could taste like both failure and freedom. Krill fought differently. No weapons, just precision. A claw to the nostril here, a tail snap to the knee joint there. His haiku sense layered the chaos. Petals fall upward. The nest is full of teeth. Forgive me, hatchlings. They were winning, until they weren't. The fifth Zarathian came through the ceiling. Its talons hooked Rhea's shoulder, yanking him upward. He screamed,
a sound Mia hadn't heard since the field hospital on Tau Ceti. Jax froze, his deep fryer sensor blinking uselessly. Krill lunged, but the Zarathian backhanded him into the fireworks rig. Mia's world narrowed. She saw the supernova cartridge, knocked loose, rolling toward Lilo. She saw Rhea's legs dangling, his blood pattering the floor like rain. She saw the exit sign above the emergency hatch, a red arrow pointing nowhere. Choose. The old Mia would have grabbed the cartridge, the one who'd prioritized spectacle over safety, who'd let the show go on, even as the rafters smoldered. The new Mia, the clown, the failure, the woman who'd spent 3 years painting stars on children's faces to atone for the ones she'd stolen, leaped for Rhea's. Her knife sank into the Zarathian's armpit, the one scaleless spot Krill had marked on the blueprints. The beast spasmed, dropping Rhea's, and Mia dragged him behind the popcorn machine as the Zarathian collapsed, thrashing. Still, got the moves, Rhea's rasped, his fingers clutching his torn shoulder. Shut up. Mia staunched the wound with confetti, her hands steady. Alive. He's alive. Across the room, Lilo stood holding the supernova cartridge like a teddy bear. Bug, Mia whispered. Put that down slow. The girl frowned. Firecrack's toy. Not a toy. Remember, Twinkle safe. Lilo's lower lip trembled. But Twinkle. She flicked the ignition switch. Mia's heart stopped. The cartridge sparked, a single golden tendril. Before Krill tackled it out of Lilo's hands, he curled around the device, his scales absorbing the blast, and the explosion was a muted whump, a dragon's sigh. When the smoke cleared, Krill lay scorched but breathing, the cartridge's shell smoking in his claws. Lilo patted his snout. Nice lizard. Krill's scent was singed sugar and pine resin. Apology accepted. The remaining Zarathians retreated, their hisses fading into the vents. Mia sagged against the popcorn machine, her clown makeup melting into the sweat and blood on her face. Reyes chuckled weakly. Pinata saved our asses, never gonna live that down. Jack stared at Krill. Dude, you just hugged a bomb. Krill blinked, his slit pupils dilating in what might have been amusement. His scent poets do not hug, only embrace inevitable. Also you owe me cake. Mia closed her eyes. The rec center stank of ammonia and burnt sugar, a kindergarten turned battlefield. Lilo crawled into her lap, her glow-stick cheeks smeared against Mia's chest. Firecrack stay. Mia pressed her lips to the girl's forehead. Always. Outside, the colony's dawn cycle began, a pale mimicry of sunlight that did nothing to warm the dead. But here, in the rubble, something kindled. Not a fire, but a spark, and Mia, for the first time, dared to believe it might catch.
Chapter 3. The air in the colony's infirmary reeked of antiseptic and burnt scales. Mia leaned against a cracked wall, her clown coat stiff with dried blood and confetti, watching Reyes snore fitfully on a gurney. The medic's shoulder was a quilt of synth flesh patches, his face pale under the flickering biolights. Jack slumped nearby, his goggles hanging askew as he tinkered with a broken confetti cannon, muttering equations under his breath. Krill crouched in the corner, his singed scales shedding emerald flakes like a shedding snake, his throat pulsing faintly with residual pain scent charred vanilla and iron. Lilo slept on Mia's lap, her glow-stick tattoos faded to ghostly smudges. The girl's fingers still clutched the sparkler she'd nearly detonated, its wire stem bent into a lopsided heart. Mia traced the shape absently, her mind a live wire. They'd survived the ambush, but the Zarathians were regrouping. She could taste it in the static-charged air, in the way the colony's vents exhaled whispers of ozone and rage. They're coming. Not the grunts this time. The warlord. Krill's nostrils flared. He limped to the viewport, his claw tapping the reinforced glass. Outside the colony's dome was a spider web of fractures, the stars beyond blurred by force field static. A shadow loomed, a Zarathian dropship, its hull scabbed with barnacle-like plasma cannons. it hovered like a vulture blotting out the feeble sun. Vorskath, Krill hissed, the first human word he'd ever spoken. It hung in the air, sulphurous and final. Mia's hand found the supernova remote in her pocket. One button, one way to burn it all clean. Lilo stirred, nuzzling her cheek against Mia's collarbone. Firecack sad, nah bug. Mia tucked the remote away, her voice ash-soft. Just tired. Liar. They retreated to the algae vats, the only sector with intact blast doors. The vats loomed like obese gods, their green slurry bubbling with lazy indifference. Jax rigged the sprinklers to spray capsaicin mist, his hands trembling. Reyes leaned on Krill, his boots leaving snail trails of blood. Mia set Lilo atop a storage crate, wrapping her in a heat blanket that swallowed her whole. Stay, Mia ordered, pressing a fresh sparkler into her hand. Twinkle safe. Remember? Lilo nodded, solemn. Twinkle pretty. The doors exploded. Vorskath entered like gravity incarnate, his scales blacker than void space, his crest a crown of serrated bone. His warriors flanked him, their hisses harmonizing into a dirge. Mia's squad raised their pitiful arsenal. Confetti bombs, taser forks, Krill's bare claws. The warlord's laugh was a landslide. He spoke in guttural bursts, the translator implant in his throat mangling the syntax. Maggots, you steal, sacred fire, now burn with it. Mia stepped forward, her boots crunched on broken glass. It was a mistake, a child's birthday. Vorskath's tongue flicked, tasting her lies. Birth, day, the concept baffled him. To Zarathians, life began in combat, not celebration, a ritual. Mia lied. 2. Honor your gods. Krill stiffened, his scent jasmine and warning, flared. Vorskath's claws snapped out, lifting Mia by her collar. Her feet dangled. Lilo's gasp was a needle in her heart. You defile the glimmer ones, the warlord snarled. Your fire is blasphemy. Mia's mind raced. The glimmer ones, Krill's extinct bioluminescent deities. She glimpsed the sparkler in Lilo's hand, its cold silver stem. Twinkle safe. Wait, she choked. We serve the glimmer too. Vorskath hesitated. Mia twisted, nodding frantically at Krill. The defector's throat pulsed, a scent haiku of desperation. Dawn cracks its frail shell, the nest remembers light. Hatchling, hatchling, sing. Lilo stood. The blanket slid off her shoulders. She toddled forward, the sparkler raised like a scepter, her glow-stick cheeks gleaming. The Zarathians froze. Mia's pulse thundered in her ears. No bug. Lilo pressed the sparkler into Vorskath's claw. The warlord recoiled, then stilled. The sparkler's tip flickered, casting fractal shadows across his face. His warriors hissed, but it was reverence, not rage. Scion, Vorskath whispered. The word slithered through Mia's translator. Scion. Holy offspring. Lilo giggled. The sound was a sunburst. The Zarathians knelt, their crests flattening in submission. Vorskath's claws trembled as he cradled the sparkler, its light reflecting in his obsidian eyes, a memory of gods long dead, reborn in a toddler's chubby fist. Krill moved first. He knelt beside Mia, his scent a psalm of hope. Petals fall upward. The nest is full of light. Forgive us, Glimmer. Mia's knees buckled. She crawled to Lilo, gathering the girl against her chest. The sparkler's glow painted their faces gold. Firecack twinkle, Lilo announced. Vorskath loomed over them. Mia tensed, but the warlord merely touched Lilo's hair, a gesture as awkward as a comet learning to orbit. The Scion will bless our nests, he intoned. You, her keeper, will. Parley. The Zarathians retreated, bearing the sparkler like a relic. Mia's squad stared, dumbstruck. Jax broke the silence. Did we just win with arts and crafts? Reyes wheezed. Remind me to convert to whatever religion that was. Krill's scent was pure smugness. Poets always win, but victory smells like cake. Yes, definitely cake. Mia didn't laugh. She pressed her lips to Lilo's temple, her tears cutting trails through the grime on her face. The remote dug into her palm, a phantom weight. She'd almost done it, almost chosen fire over forgiveness. Lilo squirmed, reaching for the sparkler's afterglow imprinted on her retina. More twinkle. Mia looked at Krill. Can you translate her? The defector nodded. Together they broadcast Lilo's laughter over the colony's PA, a sound like broken bells and rocket fuel. The Zarathians answered with a chorus of hisses, their subharmonics reshaped into something almost musical. In the algae-lit dark, Mia finally let go of the remote, of the guilt, of the woman who'd once thought fireworks were for burning bridges, not building them. The war wasn't over, but for now, the sparkler still burned. Chapter 4. The colony's dawn cycle had broken, its pale light filtering through the dome's fractures, like honey through cracked glass. Mia stood at the edge of the algae fields, her clown coat patched with duct tape and stubborn hope, watching the Zarathians erect their embassy. The structure was an architectural haiku, obsidian spires fused with human durasteel, its walls etched with bioluminescent moss that pulsed in time to the aliens' breathing. They worked with monastic precision, their claws carving symbols Mia couldn't decipher, but felt in her marrow: grief, awe, the fragile arithmetic of second chances. Lilo played at her feet, stacking glitter bombs into a wobbly tower. The Zarathians had delivered them at sunrise, each bomb a palm-sized orb, filled with prismatic dust, their casings engraved with Lilo's face. The toddler giggled as her likeness shimmered in the moss light, oblivious to her divinity. Mia's chest ached. She'd spent 3 years running from the weight of being seen. Now she was guardian to a saint who napped in a crib lined with scale mail. Krill approached, his gait still favoring his bomb-scorched leg. His scent preceded him, burnt sugar and something new, a citrus note Mia tentatively labeled contentment. He held out a data slate, its screen smeared with mucus from Zarathian fingerprints. Peace Accord. Article 12 it read. Humans will teach sacred fire. Mia snorted. They really want the sparkler tutorial, huh? Krill's throat pulsed. His scent haiku was simpler these days, less riddled with thorns. Petals fall upward. The nest remembers light. Sing, hatchling, sing. She pocketed the slate. The Zarathians' surrender had been less a treaty than a pilgrimage. Their dreadnought still orbited the colony, but its guns had been replaced with projectors that bathed the dome in auroras every dusk. Vorskath had taken to leaving offerings at Lilo's crib: polished bones, iridescent beetle shells, a dagger with Cyan's tooth, etched in Zarathian runes. Mia had replaced the blade's edge with rubber, just in case. The infirmary door hissed open. Reyes limped out, his synth flesh patches replaced with scar tissue that gleamed like wax. He nodded at the embassy. Looks like a goth cathedral fucked a disco ball. They're trying, Mia said. Yeah, try harder. But his smile softened the bite. Reyes had taken to mentoring the colony's new medics, his daughter's photo now pinned beside a sketch of Lilo labeled Peach and Zero. Holy terror. Jax emerged next, lugging a crate of sparkler canisters. The engineer had traded his grease-stained overalls for a Zarathian-engineered exosuit that hummed like a beehive. Sarge, check this out. They want the next lesson indoors. Mia raised an eyebrow. They're fire-phobic lizards, Jax. Start small. Tell them that. He jerked his thumb at the embassy, where a cluster of young Zarathians crouched on the roof, their claws sparking flint rocks with disastrous enthusiasm. One's crest had been singed pink. Lilo abandoned her glitter bombs, toddling toward the commotion. Twinkle time, Mia confirmed, hoisting the girl onto her hip. Lilo's hair had grown into a riot of curls that defied gravity and combs, a halo that glowed faintly under the moss light. The Zarathians had begun weaving their own crests into similar shapes, a trend Vorskath tolerated with bemused growls. The training field was a repurposed cargo bay, its walls still scorched from the war's first hours. Mia had ordered the floor lined with fire-retardant foam, a decision that now seemed prescient as a Zarathian hatchling, no taller than Lilo,
set a workbench ablaze with a misaimed spark. Focus, Mia barked, slapping the extinguisher button. The hatchling chirped an apology, its scent reeking of overripe guava. Embarrassment, Krill translated. Also curiosity. She demonstrated the sparkler again, her calloused fingers steady. Low heat, contained, safe. The word had become a mantra, a prayer. The Zarathians leaned in, their pupils dilating as the sparkler's light fractalized in their vision. Lilo clapped, scattering glitter from her palms. But where is the honor? Vorskath rumbled from the shadows. The warlord had traded his battle armor for a sash woven with Lilo's discarded glitter, an accessory that clashed magnificently with his existential scowl. Mia met his gaze. Honor's in the control, not the chaos, he hissed, but it was a perfunctory sound, the growl of a storm losing its teeth. Your fire is small. So was hers. Mia nodded at Lilo, who was attempting to braid the singed hatchling's crest. Now look at you. Vorskath's tongue flicked, tasting the truth in her words. He'd taken to visiting the nursery at night, his massive frame folded awkwardly beside Lilo's crib, as she babbled dreams even Krill couldn't translate. Once, Mia had found him asleep there, a glitter bomb clutched in his claws like a talisman. The lesson dissolved into controlled chaos. Zarathians crafting safe campfires, Jax frantically reprogramming smoke detectors, Rhea's heckling from the sidelines. Mia slipped away, her boots leading her to the one place the peace accord couldn't touch. The memorial garden was a scar in the colony's northeast quadrant, its soil littered with shrapnel and the ghosts of laughter. Mia knelt, brushing ash from a plaque she'd etched herself. Here fell the sky's fire, here rise the stars. No names, just guilt, polished smooth by time. She lit a match, not a sparkler, not a firework, just a trembling tongue of flame. It danced in her palm, a waltz only she could hear. The old Mia would have fed it, let it grow into a bonfire of atonement. The new Mia let it breathe, let it fade, its death a whisper, not a scream. Footsteps crunched behind her. Krill crouched, his scales clicking like abacus beads. He placed a hand over the match's corpse, his scent a question. Why here? They deserved more, Mia said. So did you. She laughed, the sound jagged. You've been reading human poetry, badly. His throat pulsed, a private punchline. Together, they watched the dusk auroras swirl, their colors deepened by the dome's fractures. Somewhere, Lilo squealed, and the Zarathians' rumble shook the air, not in war cries but in laughter. The farewell was quieter than Mia expected. No parades, no speeches, just her squad gathered in the rec center, now a shrine to Lilo's divinity. The mayor's replacement had offered medals, they'd asked for a case of lichen whiskey instead. Reyes raised his flask. To the shitstorm we survived, to the shitshow we're leaving, Jax added, his exo-suit whirring as he hugged Krill. The Zarathian endured it with the grace of a statue tolerating pigeons. Mia lingered at the fireworks rig, her fingers tracing the supernova switch. The cartridge was empty now, its wrath spent. She'd built a new finale, a single chrysanthemum burst, its petals the blue of Earth's forgotten skies. Lilo tugged her coat. Firecack fly, not tonight, bug. Mia lifted her, settling the girl on her hip. Tonight's for remembering. They climbed to the dome's observation deck, now strung with Zarathian prayer flags. The colony sprawled below, its wounds sutured with alien steel and human stubbornness. Vorskath waited, a sparkler clenched in his fist like a scepter. Do it, Mia whispered. The fireworks soared, a streak of silver, then blue, then a bloom of light that etched itself into the dusk. The Zarathians keened, their voices weaving through the explosion's echo. Lilo's laughter rang pure, a sound that carried across the rubble and the rebirth. Mia didn't flinch. She watched the light fade, her hand in Krill's, her heart a live wire finally grounded. The war was over, but the light had just begun.